and welcome to another edition of Playoff Beards here on the Let's Get Ready Network, the Highlights channel. I'm Adelia, that's my buddy Snark, and we're here to talk about the first round of the 2023 Stanley Cup Playoffs, which came to an end last night against with the Game 7 of the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. Snark, it was an interesting first round, I will say.
Yes, I think personally, I don't believe it was a good first round at all. I hated it. But as far as hockey and entertainment goes, it was a very good first round series. I think you had some huge upsets. You had some large losing streaks, and finally, hence my little thing down here, we have to come up with new jokes now for a certain team, which sucks because I sure love those jokes. I love them. And then resurgence, like in the birth playoff wise of a team out west, and very interesting first round. It's going to be a pretty interesting second round as well. But I guess maybe we should start talking about the the games that already happened. Still talking soccer. I'm gonna say matches for a while. Yeah. Let's say top of the table at some point here too. I'm sure of it.
Well, we had no sweeps in the first round.
Mm-mm.
Each series went at least 5 games. Let's start with perhaps the two biggest stories of the first round of the playoffs. The Toronto Maple Leafs is one of them. They defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 games, winning their first playoff series since 2004. There were 3 overtime games in this. Tampa lost, I believe, all of their games at home.
Yep.
In this series.
Yeah.
What did you think of this series?
I think that the better team won this time. I'm surprised how poor Vasilevsky looked. He didn't look his reliable self. And I think it just got to the point with Tampa. They've played so much hockey over the last 4 years, 5 years. I remember when I was young, the New York Islanders had their dynasty. So they had won 4 cups in a row and then lost the cup final to Edmonton in '84. That next year, they bowed out to Philadelphia in the first round, and you could just see it's over. And I have that same way. I'm feeling the same way right now about the Lightning. I think that's it. They've hit their apex, and everything's going to start coming down now. They're going to be much more mortal. They'll still be competitive, and they'll still make playoffs. They might even get playoff victories, but their window, I think, is now closed as Stanley Cup like contenders. I think, playoff contenders for sure. They still got the talent. They still got a great goaltender when he wants to show up. He was just, just the things that made them so great before, like a hard forecheck, all these things that they did, it just wasn't there. And I don't know if it's just because they're an older team now. Stamkos wasn't as much of a factor. There just was, the guys that you expect to make a difference in that series weren't making a difference. Pat Maroon looks like he's played a lot of hockey. He won 3 Stanley Cup championships in a row at some point, at one point. And he's getting older, and you put him on the 4th line, and you can go around him now. It's just not the same Tampa squad. I'm not sure if this next season is going to be the year that they start tearing it down and start to do something with it again, because otherwise they're just going to middle. But they got smart people involved there, so I'm sure at some point Tampa will be fine. But we're pushing past the real story, and that's the Maple Leafs finally getting it done after 19 years of trying to get into the second round. Everybody in Toronto is excited. And of course, when I mean Toronto, I mean the media. They're very excited. I'm sure there's been 2 or 3 movies just about them getting out of the first round, probably in the works right now. But good for them. I didn't think they had the goaltending to do it. The goaltending stood firm. Matthews,
Yeah.
like there was nobody that was like great. There was no one great.
Yeah.
But they were all like, or you can go through line. They were all very good. They did their jobs well. A couple of setbacks and stuff like that, but they did well. And as soon as that kid went out for uh, got suspended there, bunting, and went to the press box, and they decided you can't come back out. I think it was a total culture change of Toronto Maple Leafs hockey, dating back through Nazem Kadri and stuff like that, where they've always had the
Hmm.
one guy. As soon as they decided we don't need this guy anymore, we don't need this style of play in the playoffs, they've that it's like the light went on, and it's like, oh, okay, we can win like this. So yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations to them. Um, Again, to paraphrase from a song that I like, it's not the team I hate, it's their fans. I really, yeah, it really drives me nuts knowing that there's a lot of happy Toronto Maple Leaf fans, many of which in my own family. Yeah, so it's yeah, I'm gonna be annoyed for a little while, but good for them. And considering what's happened in other playoff series, maybe the best chance they've had to go to the final since winning the cup back in '67.
Yeah.
I thought they had a real good chance the year they lost to Carolina. I thought that was going to be their year to get through. Well, that and of course Gretzky high sticking Dougie Gilmore in the '90s and not getting it called, him scoring the game winning goal and stuff later. It was a shit show or whatever. And they probably could have won that year against Montreal as well. But uh, yeah, unfortunately, like I said, to Ryan when he was here, Paul Maurice has his faults as a coach, but he's a very good playoff coach. And what he and the Panthers did, uh, how many people suck on him? I know we talked about it. We talked about it here. It's like I think that the Panthers could beat the Bruins. Of course,
Yeah.
I chose the Bruins. I wasn't crazy. I didn't think like it was for sure thing.
Yeah.
You take the team that set the points record for the National Hockey League over an 8 seed any day, but they showed they can do it, and they were tough. And they forechecked well. So yeah, it was all the earmarks of a Paul Maurice team, and Boston looked older. They looked tired. Uh, Injuries, I'm sure, played a big part. I heard Patrice Bergeron was playing with two herniated discs, and he never should have came in. Like he took
Yeah.
a healthy man's
Yeah.
spot. It's just, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be Bergeron's last season. He was sure the way he left the ice sure seemed to suggest that maybe something was upcoming when you talk about his future in hockey. Um, yeah, I think he would have been much better off watching the first round, especially the one they were in charge. They were in charge. There was no reason for him to come in. It was 3-1, I believe, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
whatever.
Bruins were up 3-1 in the series. I think Bergeron only played the last two games.
Right.
I
Okay.
think.
Yeah. So there's 3-2.
They were up three. Bruins were up 3-2 with 59 seconds left in
Mm.
Game 7 when Florida scored to tie it. Amusingly, on the broadcast here in the United States, about 30 seconds before that tying goal went in for Florida, it flashed goal on the scoreboard.
Ooh.
Somebody hit the button or whatever in the
They got
control room.
wizards. They got
Yeah,
wizards.
yeah.
Lousy sorcerers. I
So
knew
so
it.
there was so there was some foreshadowing of the events on the broadcast
Oh
completely
my
by
gosh.
accident.
Yeah.
And then, of
Well,
course, Carter Verhaeghe won it in overtime for Florida. Um, it's, I think it was what 43 points separated them, 33 points, something like that, separated
yeah,
them in the regular season.
it was an incredible
Like
amount.
it's one of the biggest upsets I think we've seen in the playoffs in some time.
You would have to
Um,
imagine this is the biggest upset you've ever seen,
yeah,
just from the points discrepancy. Uh, but that's what, you could also say this: Boston was assured of their place for so long that they just lost maybe that competitive edge that they had, and Florida had
Yeah.
to fight. You had to fight to get in. You have that. You just have that edge. It's always. I'm surprised that more 8 seeds don't win, especially in the NHL, when you have to scrap and claw your way in. You just have that winning mentality, and they had it, and they did all the things. Hard forecheck is just the right way to play for the Stanley Cup playoffs. High intensity, speed, get in on the forecheck, make people make mistakes. Don't let them set up. Don't let them
Yeah.
come into your zone and stuff. Just on them, on them, on them, on them, on them. And they have the guys to do it. And I will always give Matthew Tkachuk shit. I'll always do it. I give it. His dad was a Jet, a captain of the Jets. Like Kiefer was, yeah, Kiefer had his faults and stuff like that. So I always have that kind of in my head about these Tkachuk kids, the family, of course, also from here. Uh, but you got to praise him when he plays well, and he was terrific that entire series. Physical, he scored goals. He just opened up plays for his teammates. He did everything you could have asked for him to. MVP of that series, I think, by far.
Yeah.
So uh, Florida can't stop though. They can't stop. They have to play this way. It's gonna be a tired bunch for whoever gets out of this series because they're gonna be hit and Florida's gonna be fast. But Toronto has the players, and right now you just kind of look at the path. You look at the path now that it's the second round, and Toronto has to be smart and just take it. Just don't worry about anything. Just worry about Florida. When uh, there was the bubble season, Winnipeg took out Edmonton 4 straight games. Montreal ends up taking out Toronto in 7, and it's like I know for myself as a fan, you're skipping over Montreal, who were terrible in the regular season but got in just because the other Canadian teams were also terrible. Uh, but you could see yourself skipping past it, and then Montreal comes in and crushes us in 4 straight. So with less talent, good goaltender though. So yeah, Toronto has to buckle down. Only think about Florida, how to escape the press and stuff like that. They got to be able to escape fast. They got to be able to pass well. Is their goalie going to be good enough? Well, who's going to start for Florida? Is it going
Yeah.
to be
Who's starting for
Bobrovsky?
Florida is a
Is it
big
going to be
question.
Lyon? Yeah, I think they said that Lyon was first off the ice in practice. So usually that means that's the going to be the starting goalie. But the way that Bobrovsky played in those last couple games, how do you pull him from the net? So uh, tough decisions ahead for them. But congratulations to Florida. If you put some money on them, I'm sure you're laughing. You're laughing now, and
Yeah.
yeah, no one would have thought a Toronto and Florida second round matchup.
No.
Nobody had that. It's a bracket buster, guys. Bracket buster of a series. We'll get to our predictions for that in a bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
The Car-
Let's talk about our friend Ryan's favorite team. A team
yeah.
that I thought could probably get past the Hurricanes and the Islanders, and the Hurricanes just played
Yeah.
them. They're a good team.
The Carolina Hurricanes beat the New York Islanders in 6 games. There were 2 overtime games in this one, including Game 6. Paul Stastny winning it for Carolina in Game
I love
6.
Stas.
Love
I
Paul
love Stas.
Stastny.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
the value of putting the puck on the net. The value of
yeah.
putting the puck to the net. You never know. It's a weak place behind the net. It's lucky he's a left-handed shot. And just a little bit of brain fart by Varlamov and off the skating end. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Just 1 second of just not paying 100% attention on a nothing play in overtime from the corner to yeah, you got to feel bad for the Islanders. Again, they had a good year considering how poorly they started in that huge
Yes.
opening of the year road trip they had. You wouldn't wish on your worst enemies, but they pulled it together. They got in the playoffs. I think they went signed Horvat to a long contract, and it did not make Lou Lamoriello happy, which makes me smile inside because you know
Who
something that
wants
makes
Lou
Lou Lamor
Lamoriello
yeah.
happy?
If Lou Lamoriello is unhappy, plants grow, so that's good. The sun shines when he's unhappy. It's great. Um, but yeah, Carolina was very good, and again using Antti Ranta in net for the most part. Anderson came in with that last game. Um, Sebastian Aho was very good. Their best players were good, but they were getting production from all four lines. Brent Burns looked like Brent Burns from 8 years ago in this
Yeah.
series. He was very good. Yeah, even Ghost Spear looked fine. And this is a person everybody washed their hands of. Philadelphia couldn't wait to get rid of him. Phoenix had no problem getting rid of him. So whatever, it's fine.
This series had my favorite just random moment in it. I think it was game 4 or game 5 when each team has a player named Sebastian Aho, and they were both in the penalty box at the same time. That's my favorite random moment of the playoffs so far.
Well, yeah, that's bananas. They're from Finland, right? It's like how
One
many
of them, I
Ahos?
believe, is Finnish, and I think the other is Swedish.
Oh my God, with a name like Aho. All right, weird. So strange. I know that Vancouver now has two Elijah Petersons, but
Yes.
they're not facing off against each other. They maybe get mixed up with the
Yeah.
lockers or something like that. But yeah, that is crazy. Like you've probably seen a lot of like Doug Joneses against each other or something like that. But such a random name,
Sebastian
Sebastian
Aho.
Aho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
All
like
right.
crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
bananas.
the other series in the Eastern Conference was the Devils versus the Rangers. The Devils defeated the Rangers in 7 games. There was one overtime game, and that was kind of the only close scoreline in this whole
Yeah.
series. New York won the first 2 games 5-1. Both games
Yep.
5-1. Then the Devils won
In
the
New
2-1
Jersey.
overtime game.
Yep.
In New York won the first 2 games in New Jersey. Then New Jersey went to New York, won the overtime game in game 3, then won 3-1 in game 4 to win the first 2 games in New York.
Yep.
Game 5 was 4-0 New Jersey. Game 6 was 5-2 New York, and then Game 7, which Game 7s are usually notoriously pretty tight.
Yep.
4-0 New Jersey.
It was a no-show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard talk now that Gerard Gallant's job is in jeopardy over
I
this.
can see that.
Yeah, not being able to get him to the point. But listen, it's like when we were talking about this matchup on our prediction show. This was, I think we said it was the toughest one to predict. It came down
Yeah.
to will will the veteran savvy outweigh the youthful exuberance? Uh, it was a coin flip, and it just went the other way. But yeah, it was an absolute no show, and you would have expected more out of Jacob Trouba. I know how he plays in the playoff. I've witnessed it firsthand. Uh, and you never even heard his name, other than saying like, "Where's Jacob Trouba?" Our Panarin,
Lafreniere was a no-show in
Lafreniere.
this series.
He was a number 1 overall pick, and he's a huge
Yeah.
guy, and it was so good for them last year in the playoffs. There's a chemistry problem there, and that goes to show it doesn't matter if you have names. Names are great. You know what I mean? If you could get them when they were in like their prime, it's better. But you get guys when they're 12, 13 years in on their career, they're nowhere near 50 goal scorers anymore. This is what you get. You'll get the occasional no show. So I'm not upset to see the New York Rangers go home. Not at all. I am excited to see what happens with the Devils. Now, they had the same kind of problem where they can't trust their goaltending.
Yeah.
So they, Vaclav, what's his name, Verada, had to give way to Schmid over the last couple games, who looked good. He looked fine, and it picks up a shutout in Game 7 of Stanley Cup playoff
Yeah.
series. So, so I'm imagining it's Schmid going forward. But
I would think.
yeah, it's always that backup thing where you have it in your head or whatever. But it's been the year of the backups, I suppose, with Ranta and Carolina winning majority of their games. You got uh, you got Schmid coming in. We're going to talk about a backup in the Western Conference that's going to make me cry myself to sleep tonight. Yeah, it's it's just that's why you have them. They're there to win games. They're not just there to fill out roster spots. So uh, kudos to the goaltending coaches for having their guys prepared and ready to go. Kudos to these guys for being focused and remaining in the moment when it comes to playing hockey and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think there's got to be, you know, 19 guys that are pretty disappointed in themselves right now in the New York Rangers because they should have won the series and they fell apart. They literally fell apart in
Yeah.
Game 7. It was a bit of an embarrassment, but
Yeah.
good for them.
Before we talk about the Western Conference, let's take a moment to hear from Justin about some stuff going on with the channel.
Hey guys, it's Justin, aka Hambone, just here to let you know a couple of things that we have going on with the channel. One, we have a Patreon. If you can and want to support us, you can do that. As little as $1. You can join the Discord. We also have a merch store where you can get some cool shirts, mugs, and stuff with all of our different shows and labels on there. And thank you for all of our supporters that have already been there with us.
And if you're interested in the Patreon, the merch store, or our website, links to that are in the description.
There you go. For example, there you go.
For example, the lovely Playoff Beards hat that Snark is wearing. Now, both of our teams were in the Western Conference in the playoffs. Should we start with them or end with them?
Let's. I want to rip the Band-Aid off of mine. And they.
All right, let's start with the Jets and end with the Abs.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. The Jets are who they look to be in February.
Before you start ranting, because I feel like a rant is coming on. The Golden Knights defeated the Jets in 5 games.
5 games.
Let's get that out there.
Yes.
The only 5-game series in the playoffs.
Thank you for that.
Sorry.
2 competitive games. The Jets played one very good game. That first game, everything was clicking. They got it, and there's hope. Like I picked the Jets to win in 5 games because I am, like I said on the show, a huge homer, and I'd rather be way wrong than be right and pick like the Knights and 6 or whatever. So I see them win that first game, and I'm excited. It's like this is how they're like. Pierre-Luc Dubois was everywhere. Adam Lowry was fantastic. There was speed up and down. They looked good defensively. Hellebuck played well. And then game 2 happened, and they threw the script out and said, "You guys, remember how we coasted from January to March? Let's do that again. That's got to be the way to win. Let's not be engaged. Let's stay. Yeah. Let's give everybody space. Let them get to the net with no problem. What? The best chances to score has got to be from the boards. That has to be the best play. Why put a guy in front? All they could do is possibly get a rebound and bang it home. Why would you want to put them there? It makes no sense for us to try and score from directly in front of the net. Why go to the net when we could spin around and go towards the point? It's so much closer to the net. The Jets were awful. And the one game at home that goes to double overtime where they go down 3-0 or 3-1, and they magically come back. And the last minute they score. And again, PLD was playing his type of game where he antagonizes and he's always on the edge. But for some, they had it in for him that game and called him on a penalty just 15 seconds before overtime, and then another one in double overtime. We were shorthanded too often. We let Mark Stone dictate the play, a guy that's been resting since January. He had a back injury. he had a back injury, so that $7.5 million more players could come in. But that is what it is. It's a loophole that's been used before. So
Yep.
congratulations to them. If the Jets want to win, maybe they can start smartening up and start playing like everybody else, playing well behind the scenes. They weren't good. They weren't good. The last game was terrible. Like we're like giving up a goal. It's a killer when you give up goals in the first minute of games or in the first minutes of periods and the last minutes of periods. And they let in 2 goals in the first minute of the opening period and the second period. They looked slow. They looked sluggish. They didn't look involved at all. And now there's a lot of all the core, the original core of this Jets team is coming up on their contracts are going to be over next year. So we've got guys like Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, PLD is going to be a restricted free agent, but we all know that he wants to go to Montreal. So something's got to be done about that. Connor Hellebuck, who is terrific. He's terrific in the regular season. Is terrific. But when it comes to playoffs, he just shuts down. Like, I don't know if it's just too much pressure on the guy or whatever, if he can't handle it, but he's awful. And we don't win at home. We have one of the loudest, most energetic rinks in hockey. The whiteout has become a phenomenon for playoffs. And we haven't won there in 7 games, 8 games. They just don't win at home. And you don't win at home, you're not going to win very many playoff series, especially when you manage to get in as the 8th seed, only because Calgary and Nashville wanted it less. And they got rid of all their guys. They got like Calgary cleaned house. Nashville, we already knew, was getting a new GM. So yeah, the Jets are at a spot now where if big changes aren't done, again, we're going to be talking about either a long playoff drought. We're going to be talking about a complete and total rebuild, or we're going to talk about us just middling again. And like, nobody wants this. Nobody in this city wants this. We want to compete, and they just don't have a team that competes right now. And they're too small. Where's the fight guys? We got Adam Lowry, who's 6'5", and he was everything we wanted. Like, this playoff loss is definitely not on a third line center who's like the quarterback for your penalty kill and just he's like the heart and soul leader of the team. But you just need 18 more guys like this. And Kyle Connor, he can score goals, but he disappears in the playoffs because it's tough. He's too slight. Like, getting goals in the regular season is fine. That goal he got was the last goal that we scored in the playoffs to make it 4-1 or whatever it was, and it didn't matter. It never mattered. So everybody's backing up. Everybody for Vegas at that point is, we've already won this. Let's not get hurt. And we still only managed 1 goal. So yeah, it was terrible. But again, Vegas looked good. And Laurent Brossoit, was a backup here in Winnipeg as well, and good friends with Connor Hellebuck, and they've trained together. This is why he came over here, was the backup in Edmonton for a while. Good for him. Yeah, like, the student has outplayed the master now for sure. He looked solid. He looked composed. He came up with huge saves. He came up with ridiculous saves. He did everything. Did everything they're going to want from him. Vegas is going to be a real hard out, but they've got the toughest match. That is going to be the toughest matchup, maybe, of the entire playoffs. Is that second round matchup with the team they're playing against. It is the marquee. This matchup now, it's too bad it's got to happen because of the silly way that the playoffs are set up, that Vegas has to meet the Edmonton Oilers in the second round. They're going to lose.
The Edmonton Oilers defeated the Los Angeles Kings in 6 games. There were 3 overtime games in this series. Tons of goals. Very high-scoring games.
As you'd expect when you have, the best player in the world who decided this year he was going to score a bunch of goals as well. Scored the most goals of his career. I think he had 150, 160 points. Pretty impressive. Draisaitl, great. And when Edmonton gets down, and like Los Angeles played well, it's not like they're, they didn't they matched up with them really well last year in the playoffs, and I thought probably could have taken out Edmonton last year. I was hoping they could take them out this year. Uh, 'Cause I'm not an Oilers fan, obviously, but when it comes down to it, Edmonton just has that secret weapon. When they're at home, they can stack that top line. They can put Draisaitl, McDavid, and Evander Kane on on a line. These guys can play 25 minutes a night. It's tough. It's tough. But now that they have to go up against Vegas, who has four good lines, four lines that score, and very good defensively. How do you put these guys on one line? You can't. Even in a spot where if they're down in the series 3-1, they need goals and stuff like that. How can you put these guys together? You just shut them down. Like Tyson Barrie is a fine hockey player, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had the best year of his career. But if you're depending on those two to win you a playoff series because the other two get shut down or at least contained, because you probably can't stop. You can't stop McDavid. You can't stop Draisaitl, but you can contain them, and then just use them. Just get on them physically. Get on them physically. Like I said, Paul Maurice is a very good playoff coach, and you see what Florida did against Boston. The Jets did against the Oilers, and that's just be on them all the time. Be on them all the time. That's the key to beating high-powered teams. You have to be on it. You can't give them space. You can't give them time with the puck. So, and that's what Vegas is just. It's a tough. They're a physical team. They're fast. They have guys that can score all through the lineup. It's going to be a fascinating series. Hopefully, they beat the living hell out of each other for 7 games, and they just have nothing left. They have nothing left. It happened with the Jets when they had to take on the Predators in 2018, and then we get a matchup against Vegas, who's been waiting since beating San Jose, and they took us out in 5 games in that one too. Maybe it's just a Vegas thing. They just like beating Winnipeg in 5 games all the time. A bunch of jerks. Give us a break. Yeah.
Edmonton will not be relying on Tyson Barrie for goals or whatever you were just saying, because Tyson Barrie doesn't play for Edmonton anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Got traded to Nashville for Matthias Ekholm in February.
And how about that for a trade? He just fit in so well? And that trade, when you bring in Matthias Ekholm, who, Norris candidate or whatever a few times in Nashville, just see how it just seemed to even everything out. You take all that pressure off of Darnell Nurse. Like Darnell Nurse, again, I keep going back to that series, Winnipeg against Edmonton, but I think there was a game where he played that game 4. I think he played 45 minutes because it went into double or triple overtime, like 45 or 50 minutes. Like, how can you play this guy so much? But now you can put those two on two different pairings, or you can put them both together if they need to, like they do if they have to be if they need goals, if they need whatever at home. But it's only at home. You can't do it on the road. You cannot do it on the road. Still get they will get picked on if that happens. But it's going to be fascinating. It'll be fascinating to see what happens in that series. God, like you could see the games either being 1-0, 2-1, or you could see 9 goals, 9-8, 9-7. Yeah, it all depends. Brossoit, of course, also knows these guys for playing with them and stuff like that. So there's there an advantage. He showed us an advantage against Winnipeg. So does he have an advantage against Edmonton? Maybe. We'll see. You don't take him out of the net now, though, no matter what happens. So I don't care who gets healthy. Laurent Brossoit is your goaltender for the entire playoffs. You can't take him out.
Yeah. Dallas beat Minnesota in 6 games. Rupe Hintz just went on an explosion of scoring in this series.
Come from?
12 points in 6 games. 5 goals, 7 assists.
Bananas.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's leading playoff scoring right now.
Yeah. Pretty incredible. But it's like I said at the on the preview for the playoffs we did. Minnesota is going to get found out. Minnesota's found out. Like, they're phonies.
Yeah.
I'm glad they got beat. I wish they got beat worse. And I do not like Dallas. I despise Dallas. But I hate Minnesota. They're garbage people. Breath probably smells like garbage. Got halitosis, I'm sure. Uh, they deserve to get beat. They did get beat. Um, I thought Dallas played well. I think they were getting, again, contributions up and down the lineup. I think Rupe hits. Oh, and they have like Jason Richardson on the team. Like, and it's good to see like guys like Jamie Benn and stuff like that stepping back. And they're still winning. Sagan stepping back, still winning. Good to see Ty's kid Max is doing well in Dallas. Now,
Yeah, Max Domi's fit in Dallas really well.
really well. He wins face-offs. And he's one of those guys that and you need guys like that. Like PLD does it well for the Jets, and he's big, but he doesn't know when to bring it back a little bit. And he may draw the most penalties in the league, but he also, I think, is one of the guys that gets called for the most penalties in the league. So, but Domi it's hard to think of Max Domi as a veteran now. You're always going to think of him as a little Ty's kid, and yeah, he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure he's relishing going on a playoff run now, considering some of the teams he's been on in Columbus and Phoenix and Montreal and stuff like that. Yeah, so yeah, good for him. I don't predict they're going to go any farther. I'm going to say the next team we'll talk about should be able to take them out from what we've seen. I like Seattle's chances over Dallas.
Yep, the Seattle Kraken defeated the Colorado Avalanche, the defending champs, in 7 games, becoming the first expansion team to ever beat the defending Stanley Cup champions in their inaugural playoff series. This series was the Avs never played like the Avs normally play in this series. Maybe Game 6, which they won 4-1, but the rest of the time it was really, really hard for them to get their game going. And that's credit to Seattle. Seattle played them really well.
They did. Dave Haxel's, I'm sure, exercising a lot of demons this season. A lot of people have said he shouldn't be there and stuff, especially after his time in Philadelphia. But here's the deal. Philadelphia sucks. Flyers suck. It wouldn't have mattered who coaches that team. They suck. Not a great year, not a great expansion year. We all thought, what is everybody doing? Ron Francis has an idea for this club, and it's all coming through for him now. It just took a year. It took a year longer than, say, Vegas did. But has anyone had a weirder playoff than Colorado in the last, like, this year? Of like the things with Nichushkin and then like Landeskog not being able to play all year, but the Nichushkin stuff is bananas. It just seemed like you guys could not gel. Like, you know what I mean? Everything seemed to be a little upset for the Avs. Gorgiev gets outplayed by your former goaltender, and I'm sure that kind of hurts. But again, that's maybe a thing where goalies who've been on teams may have advantages and stuff like that. They might just may know tendencies, but there wasn't as very much traffic in front of the net for Colorado.
The bottom 6 for Colorado did not play well.
No.
McKinnon, Rantanen, and Lehkonen was like all of the scoring for Colorado.
One problem is you guys were missing Andrew Cogliano.
Yes. Look, the Cale Makar hit, suspension, all of that, fine. Mm-hmm. I understand why that's a hit that gets suspended. Mm-hmm. The fact that Jordan Eberle can board Andrew Cogliano with a hit like that breaks Andrew Cogliano's neck, and he doesn't even get a disciplinary hearing for that, is straight bullshit.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, it's awful. I can think of 2 times when a player had a neck broken on penalty-worthy plays, not accidents, penalty-worthy plays. Brian Little is the first one I can think of, and Paul Maurice ends up getting thrown out of that game because he called the referee a fucking idiot because he did nothing. Mm-hmm. And this was. What is the point of having reviews and stuff like that when you don't use it? You can use it. Like it should have been 5 minutes right then. Not only 5 minutes, Eberle should have been taken out maybe for 3 games, 4 games. Like if Scheifele had that 4-game suspension for hitting that guy as he's scoring the empty net goal. This guy sees a guy's numbers and just doesn't stop. There was no stopping. You can watch his skates. You can see if he tries to put the blades down to stop. He doesn't. He goes through him. He just hits him. It's reprehensible that there was no call, that there was no discipline, and I think Department of Player Safety, we already know is a joke, but
it's a complete joke.
Yeah, there has to be a complete overhaul. They've got to get people from outside of hockey now. There's too many people close to hockey that run Department of Player Safety. It's got to be outside. They've got to be able to look at it in black and white. There's not, but it's the playoffs. It doesn't matter. A guy ran the guy through the boards, broke his fucking neck. That's it. You're gone. Is it a softer call because it's Eberle of all people? Who knows? But, and Seattle still could have been fine without Eberle. Seattle played well. Like all 4 lines play well. They're well coached. The goaltender was fine. Defense was pretty good. I think they're good enough to take out Dallas because I didn't think they were good enough to take out Colorado, and they did. They took out Colorado so they could take out Dallas. I don't see why not. But I think it's a goddamn shame that Eberle was still allowed to shake hands at the end of the game 7. I'm surprised that people shook his hand, to tell you the truth. Ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. But the Seattle Kraken moving on to face Dallas. I hope they destroy Dallas.
Yeah. Screw Dallas.
Let's see. So in the second round, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Florida Panthers. The first playoff meeting ever between these two teams.
Yeah.
Toronto won 3 of the 4 games in this year's regular season series.
Yeah. And that third game, I remember, I think it was like 6-2 or something like that. They look like Florida didn't look like they should be in the same league as Toronto. I think they did win their last game. I think it was in overtime, if I'm remembering right. I expect Toronto to win, but I expected Boston to win too. So who knows? Will the pressure of round 2 now be even greater on Toronto, or is it just that the monkey is off their back? Are they going to be that much lighter on their skates? Will they be able to sleep easier at night? You don't have the jokes anymore about round 1. I don't know.
I don't know. This Florida, is the most intriguing of the playoff matchups in round 2 for me.
Yeah, Toronto. It's just tough. It's tough to pick Toronto to win a playoff series. I think Paul Maurice is a good coach. Again, he just coaches well in the playoffs. I know Ryan was thinking that the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup or something like that. Let's say, just to be fun, I'm going to pick the Panthers in 6 games.
Okay. I think I'm going to go Toronto in 7.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine too. And Toronto is probably going to win it, but I just have that's one of those feelings. Of course, as you well know, not the best at predicting things, Adelia.
Yeah.
Not the best.
All right, the other Eastern Conference matchup, the Hurricanes and the Devils. The 5th playoff meeting between these two teams. Carolina's won 3 of the previous 4. They last met in the 2009 Eastern Conference quarterfinals, which Carolina won in 7 games, and they split the 4 games in this year's regular season series.
Yeah. I think one of the Carolinas wins was a shootout, if I remember right as well. Again, these two teams are very similar.
Yeah.
Younger, there's fast. I like Carolina's bottom 6 more than I like New Jersey's bottom 6. So I am going to take Carolina Carolina in 6 games.
Okay. I think I'm going to go Carolina in 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're very evenly matched.
Right. And again, not to say that New Jersey could very well win this matchup as well. They're 2 good teams. These are 2 good teams. We're getting a good matchup here. It's going to be fun hockey to watch. Again, I always have that thing about experience going through my head, and I've already been proven wrong this this playoff series. So who knows?
Yeah.
But I have a feeling Carolina. And I just want them to win for Stastny. I just want Stastny to get a cup. That'd be great.
Yes,
I don't have a dog in a fight
I would love
anymore.
to see. I would love to see Stastny get a cup.
Yeah.
The Dallas Stars and the Seattle Kraken, the first ever playoff meeting between them. Obviously, Dallas won 2 of the 3 games in this year's regular season series. I don't care how many games it takes. I want Seattle to win.
Yeah, I think Seattle is going to win. And I'm going to pick them in 5 games. I'm going to pick them to win in 5 games.
Okay. And the Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers, the first playoff meeting between these 2 teams. Edmonton won 3 of the 4 games in this year's regular season.
Right. How many of those were smart with a healthy Vegas lineup?
And how many of those had Brossoit in net for Vegas, too?
That's true. But also, Evander Kane was missing for so long as well after that nasty slash he got for the skate. Again, I like Vegas's 4 lines better. Edmonton has more talent. Vegas has the superior defense, but maybe Edmonton has a couple better defensemen. It can go either way. The goaltending, I'm gonna sway to Vegas. You can't trust Stuart Skinner, whoever they want to throw in that for Edmonton.
Yeah.
They're both not great. They're both not fantastic. Again, it's a 7-game series. I'm sure hoping it's a 7-game series, but I'm gonna go for. I'm picking Vegas. I'm picking Vegas to and home ice advantage actually meaning something, and them taking out the Oilers in the second round. Cross my fingers. God, I'm not an Oilers fan. I do not like them at all.
Yeah. I'm going to go Vegas, even though Edmonton won in the regular season more. I think that I trust Brossoit in net more than I trust Skinner or whoever they put in net for Edmonton. I know Edmonton can score goals. That's obvious, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think Vegas can shut them down. Winnipeg can score goals, and it's tough to score when, again, you're always on the outside. You're not going towards the middle. But if Vegas is going to have to stay composed. They can't give up penalties because the Oilers should leave them alive.
Edmonton's power play is insane.
Yep. And I don't think their penalty kill for Vegas is great. So if they stay out of the box, they shouldn't. They should have. They'll have a much easier time, of course. But you just can't give those guys. You can't give those again. You can't give them time and space. And when you have a power play, obviously, with playing a man down, you have more space. You can create, and they're so big and strong and fast. Just those 2 guys, and they can play the 2 minutes. They have no problem playing the entire power play. It's bananas. So I think Edmonton wins their home games, and I think Vegas wins their home games. I think it comes down to that.
Yeah. And of course, it's been a while since any of the teams that are left won the Stanley Cup. Florida, Vegas, and Seattle have never won it. Carolina, the most recent winners, back in 2006. New Jersey hasn't won since 2003. Dallas, 1999. Edmonton, 1990. And Toronto, of course, 1967.
Toronto has not won a Stanley Cup since they invited extra teams. Toronto always had a pretty good chance when you only had to beat 5 other clubs. And they doubled that to 12. We're done. That was it. Couldn't come close. Never even got back to the finals.
The second round of the playoffs kicks off tonight, and probably already has by the time this goes up. So looking forward to the second round. Probably do some watch-alongs for something somewhere in the second round. Not sure when yet. And we'll be back with another episode of Playoff Beards when the second round is over. and look forward to the conference finals. Snark, where can people find you?
You can find me here on LGRN, the highlights. Also doing starting 11. There was a match today that made me very sad, and I'm sure you were less sad about it. But we will talk
Very
about
less
that.
sad.
Yes, we will talk about that and more. Not on our next episode, but it won't be for a little while. I'll have to have a little business trip to take care of in Vegas, and we'll be gone for a week. But can't wait to get back and talk about how much Chelsea has been disappointing me, and I'm sure will continue for the next little while, at least this season.
Yeah. So check out Starting 11. Starting 11 is Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on this very channel. And you can find me on Twitter at Adelia Chambo. We're doing Entertainment News Break tonight on the LGRN Entertainment channel. So there's a link to that channel in the description of this video. And we will see you guys when the second round is over. Bye.